shine a light on the things that you think are holding you back. What are you afraid of, right? Start solving for that problem, and you will find you will start taking the actions to move you where you want to go.
How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? This is Sean Barnes. I want to welcome you back to The Way of the Wolf. Our guest today is a gentleman named Dale Walls. He owns the Lions Guide that helps people focus on clarity and confidence in building their businesses and in their lives. Dale, welcome to The Way of the Wolf.
Thanks, Sean. Happy to be here.
All right, man. I kind of wish we would have been recording some of our earlier conversations before we actually hit the record button. But there's so much alignment here between the wolf and the lion in what we do. I am very excited to dive into this. So can you give us kind of a quick rundown of what the Lions Guide is? And I know you've got other businesses that we're going to get into, but let's really get into the meat of the Lions Guide.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's really part of where the rest of the businesses came in a degree. But, I built a business, long story short, out of the Marine Corps doing IT services, built it, and after 15 years, sold it, had a great exit, built that company from zero to about $10 million of revenue, sold it in 2018 to a private equity group, stayed on board for another 18 months, quadrupled the business in that time, and said, hey, good, done, out. And I realized that, afterwards, and people kind of knew I kind of, quote, retired. And I don't say that anymore because today with the family office and Lions Guide stuff that I do, I feel like I'm working harder than I ever did because I'm back in kind of building, mode and building leaders again. Whereas that part at my IT company, Corsica, I was leading leaders, in these other businesses, including Lions Guide, like I'm building leaders again, building teams, building services, but, finding where we really serve and solve problems for people. But Lions Guide was that. I had a lot of people start to come to me going, hey, I need you to help me in my business. I want to know how you did what you did. I'm struggling with accountability of my team. They don't show up, and I'm hiring and firing people left and right. And what I realized was, just it's hard to be a leader, period. Being a leader is hard work. It's a hard job. And what I started Lions Guide was to just kind of take these conversations. Now I found myself having them over and over and over. And I was like, okay, I got to stop and just either write a book or record this crap so that when people, and what I did, I used it as a tool, and I would go, hey, I actually recorded a lesson on what you're asking me. I'm gonna shoot you a link. Go check that out, right? So because I literally, you get to a point where you're just kind of like, okay, let me tell you about my confidence formula again. Anyways, and so I love doing it. Don't get me wrong, but I just needed to systemize it. And the truth be told, at least the way I view the world is that everybody's a leader. And I got that lesson in boot camp. I mentioned to you before the show. I don't hang my hat on military service and nothing with the guys that do and all that stuff. I don't run around and go, look at me, I'm a Marine. Like, I don't do that. But this one point I'll make that I did learn, in the Marine Corps amongst other leadership lessons, was, even if you're not directly in charge of anyone else, you're always in charge of yourself, right? And fundamentally, I believe and teach that's what self-discipline is, right? In the Jocko world, it's like discipline. And I say he's right on the money with regard to this fact that I've come to learn, which is, discipline is really just self-leadership. If you take every leadership book that says this is how you hold people accountable, this is how you craft a vision, all the things that are leadership 101, and you stop and you unpeel it and lay it on top of your own goals and initiatives, it's just, that in essence is what discipline is, right? Discipline is self-leadership. And so if you have not schooled, read, focused on your own leadership development, understanding what leadership is, that's where I see people kind of struggle with their own personal self-discipline, self-confidence, knowing what they're working towards is a big problem, especially because a lot of people with my history in Lions Guide, they're usually full-time business owners, right? They're not side hustle guys. They're not organizational leaders that are like senior exec type of stuff. It's the ones like, hey, I'm running a business. This is how I put food on my table, and I'm struggling, right? And I need help, and I'm not sure where to go from here. And what I teach them and help them find is their ability to lead themselves correctly and congruently, I guess, with where they're trying to go. But a lot of times people don't even know where they're trying to go. They knew, like, man, I'm tired of working for someone else and I want to start my own business. And that's all good. And that's a great kind of tipping point to kind of, get you making a change, so to speak. But what they don't know at that time, most people, is that the minute you say, hey, I'm going to stop swinging this hammer for someone else, I'm going to start swinging this hammer for myself, and I'm going to get the fruits of my labor, not just capped at my salary or hourly, whatever it is, you actually shifted from being that primary hammer swinger to being a primary business owner. And swinging that hammer is secondary now, right? Now, you still have to do that. I'm saying you kind of stop swinging the hammer and focus only on the business, and there's no one to do the work. But maybe you grow to that point. But a lot of business owners that go full time struggle with that. They don't work on the business. They don't do the leadership things. They just think, I just swing the hammer, and I try to scale that, and they kind of have problems. So, long story short, Lions Guide is that it's training for leaders, not leadership training. Although we do talk about facets of leadership, so they learn it, see it, and know it. But it's holistic. It's a bit of personal performance stuff. It's a bit of leadership training. It's a bit of management training. It's a bit of business training that helps fill in the gaps. But at the end of the day, being in that role as a full-time business owner, even an organizational leader, it is a highly demanding role. And so we teach you how to be where you need to be to contend with the demands of being in that role. So
so the timing of us recording this could not be better. I was at a networking event a couple of weeks ago having a conversation with a young gentleman in his early 20s, just out of college, starting up a business. And he started going through my podcast episodes, and I spoke to him just a couple of days ago, and he had said, man, there's a whole bunch of great content on leadership and building and scaling teams at scale. There's not a whole lot of stuff that talks about how do you actually start the business, because growing and scaling a business and leading teams of a company that have 150 to 1,500 or 3,000 employees is very different than starting and going from 0 to 50 or 0 to 100. So I would really love to kind of dive into that aspect and kind of focus in on, okay, how can we add the most value and sharing the most knowledge with these listeners in that arena. And with you having Corsica Technologies and actually building it up and then selling or exiting that business, can we dive into that piece of it? And everything that you just touched on is extremely important as far as leading yourself and discipline and confidence and all of these struggles. And then understanding, if I'm the IT guy, yes, I have to work on the computers, the servers, and the networks and switches, but also I have to understand a P&L. Also, I have to sell. Also, I have to market and build a brand. So where do you start? Say you have this technical aptitude and you have a tendency to just be great at technology or whatever your business is. How do you make that leap from swinging the hammer to actually building the business? Because there's so many different facets to focus on.
So I'll start with kind of maybe what happens and then what I end up solving for. And I'll say this so that the folks out there that are currently probably the majority into the what happens versus what should happen. So if you're thinking about starting your business, pay attention. This is going to be good for where you want to start. But most of them, do that, right? They start and they're swinging the hammer. They start getting a lot of business and they're not ready for scale. And that's where they start to fall, is because they have not thought through when my business starts to grow, right? They just think, I'm going to start working for myself. I'm going to start bringing in the money to me, and I'm going to start, blah, blah, blah. And so a couple things. And one of my philosophies that I tell people, like when they've, we always talk about the path, right? Like maybe you talk about it on your show, like, being on the path. You're going to fall off the path at times. Things are going to happen. Things are going to knock you off the path. And my response to that is, what do you do when you get knocked off the path? You just find the shortest route to get back on the path. So as I talk here on this topic, I'm going to say, hey, if you haven't started yet, this is the path you want to get on. If you've been knocked off this path I'm about to say, just find the shortest path to get back on this path. And the path is this. your business is a system. It's a work of art, right? And you are going to be constantly molding it, and you need to be working on what your business is, and you need to be thinking through like where it's going to go. You do have, like, we go back to leadership, right? Leadership needs to have a vision, right? What are you leading towards? So great, you get motivated and you start your business, and you're hammer swinging, but all of a sudden 2 years in, you're working 60 hours a week, and you're starting to burn. Probably at some point you didn't think through like, hey, I'm going to get started, and how many customers do I want to do, and how big do I want my team to be, and you don't know all these answers like out of the gate, and I get it. But where people fail is they don't take any time to pull their head back and work on the piece of art that they have started, which is their business, right? They are just in it, and they are just swinging the hammer, and they're burning themselves out, and they're, I need help, and they don't stop and go, okay, well, when it talks about adding people, what kind of people do I need in my business, right? What do I need their capabilities to be? Like, for example, I'll jump around a little bit here, but like, for example, when people are hiring, a thing that I teach, and a mistake I see over and over again, is people just think, I need a body and I'll grab a body, right? Well, you need to stop and work on like, what is the ideal person in that role that you need to fulfill? Like, what are you solving for? Like, add that to your list over and over every day. Like, the question you need to be asking yourself when you're making decisions is, what am I solving for? And that's a vision driving question, right? Like, how do I want this to turn out? What am I solving for? And that applies like to hiring. Like, when you're trying to bring people in, you're grinding, your business is starting to grow, you're starting to get customers coming in, you're starting to get more prospects coming in. Okay, there's going to come a point where you're going too hard and you can't keep up. So what you're solving for is, I can't keep up. Okay, so what do I need? Do I need more hammer swingers? Do I need someone to take these sales calls for me? Do I need a back office person because I'm coming home and I'm doing estimates and invoices until 9 o'clock at night, and getting up at 6 the next morning and doing it all again, and now I'm falling behind. So again, working on your business, you got to always ask yourself, what am I solving for? And what is the ideal solution for what I'm solving for? So when people hire, they go, I need an assistant. Great. What they typically do is they put that out very ambiguously somewhere in the interwebs, and they line up 5, interviews, and they bring people in, and it's very like judgmental, like, who do I like the best of these 5 candidates that have come in here, right? And then you pick one of them and you say, hey, your job is X now, and you get to work. And they've not really given them a clear vision on what a good job looks like, what's expected of them, why they're here. Again, back to what am I solving for? They didn't quite bring a proper clarity to that. And then what happens is that person comes in, they're not really clear on what their job is. You're not really clear on what you brought them in for. They're not doing a great job. Well, and you don't even know what a good job looks like. And, they churn, and then you realize, well, they're no good, and I'm going to get rid of them, or they quit, or whatever. And now you got that revolving door effect. That's what happens a lot, sadly. But the leader has the opportunity to not let that happen before you put anything out, is to really sit down and go, what am I solving for? And what does the ideal candidate look like in this role, right? What are their capabilities? What do I need them aligned with? What do I need them to be able to do? And then when you bring those applicants in, those 5, if you will, in this example, you're not comparing them to one another. You're comparing all 5 of them to what you drafted as your ideal person that you're bringing into the team, to what you're solving for. Because now you're taking that 5 and you're comparing each one of them not to themselves but to your ideal in this role, and one of those people fit your ideal or they don't. Because now in this scenario, you might interview those 5 people and none of them are a fit, right? So you didn't pick the best of the crap that came in. you say, hey, all 5 of these are crap compared to what I need in my business, right? And if you would slow down again and work on your business in that regard, instead of like just wild westing it just because you're in the rat race of the day to day, and slow down and put that type of effort into it, you will have more, progress, if you will, right? Because when you do the former scenario where we do it a poor way, that's the whole 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, right? And I see this with business owners all the time. I brought someone in, they didn't work out. Now I'm looking for someone else. I brought someone in, they didn't work out. I'm looking for. You got to slow down and work on your business and make it like, sure, spend your 40 hours a week like swinging the hammer. And that other 60 hours that you end up working, say no to the 40-hour labor work and say yes to working on your business, right? Those 10-hour days, take that extra 2 that you're working, say no to the work and say yes to working on your business. And if you would just do that, you'll start to bring that level of clarity to what you're driving towards, not just, the crazy rat race, effort,
The thing that I've come to realize, and so you and I haven't kind of gotten into my business all that much, but I started doing it full time about 8 months or so ago now. And the majority of my background has been in oil and gas, a lot of acquisition, mergers and acquisitions, integrations, and things like that. But it's all been at scale. And so I'm very comfortable in building businesses that have anywhere from 150 to 3,000 employees, because there's things that have to occur to be able to take you up to that next level. What I have never done is started from zero. And one of the things that I see is so many people get focused in on doing the thing. And I have some friends that are videographers and do graphic design, websites, and things like that. And so whenever you are just that one-man show, the solopreneur, yes, you have to capture the content, you have to edit the content, you have to do all the sales, you have to do all the things to generate interest. You have to raise people's awareness of who you are and what you do, and you have to do that work. Now, the back-end administrative stuff is not as time-consuming at that point in time. However, if you are good at what you do and you start building a brand for delivering high-quality results, there will start to be more inbound than you as a solopreneur can handle. And what I'm hearing from you is how important it is to start mapping out and clearly defining what are the things that are taking me away from the high leverage activities that I need to be focused on. Because if I'm a videographer, I need to focus on shooting and editing content. I do not need to be focused on invoicing and billing and updating the website and posting on socials. Yes, I do kind of, but if I can clearly define, I need somebody to handle all of my invoicing and collection of payment, and I need somebody to do this, this, and this, I think that's an area where people start to struggle, because it's like, oh God, I've got to do all these things. And they lose sight of the high leverage activities that they should be focused on that generate revenue, and start to think, okay, well, who do I bring in? And to your point of, I'm just going to get a body. Well, if you get a body that's just kind of mediocre at all these different things, is probably not the best approach. So taking the time to line out, I just need somebody that can handle all my invoicing for me. And you bring them in as a part-time contractor so that you can focus on the high leverage activities that generate revenue. And then, yes, you are going to have to pay this individual. But if your time is worth $100 an hour, $200 an hour, and you bring somebody in to handle invoicing for $30 an hour, $40 an hour, you then have more time to spend on the high leverage work that is generating revenue. And I think that's a concept that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, because they just get so wrapped up in, I've got all this work to do, and lose sight of how important it is to focus on doing this thing, and then clearly defining what you can offload and then filling that role.
Yeah, and back to the work of art analogy, right? You do need to define your business system. Like, how does my business work, right? Again, and it's simple, man. Like, and don't overthink it. Like, don't pull out Lucidchart and all that. Like, pull out a notebook and a pencil, and just start. And again, you're not going to do it day one, but you're going to start just playing. Like, it's time out. How's my business working? Where are my leads coming from, right? Like, where am I getting business from? Just take a time out and spend 15 minutes and look at your last 10 jobs and go, where did they come from? Right? So right there, just doing that work on your business, you're identifying what is your market development process, right? Like, where is it coming in? Is it the work you're doing online by showing your thing, your video, your examples of your work, or is it to referral partners that are like wedding planners or whatever that are going, hey, I know a guy that's a great videographer. And why? Why do you do that? Because you're starting to bring clarity to how your business works. You might not know until you start getting closer to these things, the answers, so to speak, of how your business works. But you need to stop and just reflect and review, going, okay, I would like more business. Where has my business come from? Oh man, it's coming from going to all these networking events, but that's really been falling off because I don't have time because I'm filming events, right? If we're talking about the videographer, so what do you do? Well, so maybe I need someone to go to these events for me on my behalf and kind of network and do whatever, because I've identified that this is a key, gear in my business system. So I need to go ahead and make sure it's accounted for, right? And because we, like you said, as a solopreneur, especially starting out, there's a thing called the Founder's Cap. There's a great book by Michael Gerber called the E-Myth that kind of dives into this, which is the whole working on the business stuff. But at the end of the day, you're limited by your two hands, right? So it's called the Founder's Cap. So if you cap how large your business can grow by what you can do with your own two hands, it is going to be capped because there's only so much capacity that you have individually. So again, back with the piece of paper and pencil, sit down and go, okay, how is my business, where's business coming from? Really, when I meet with a new client, how's that been going? Because systems are happening naturally, right? Like you are naturally, and you don't even know it, going through what's working for you, right? Your first prospect comes in, you fumble through and you learn lessons. And then the next prospect comes in, you kind of take those lessons you learn from the first prospect meeting and, you kind of apply them in the next. But after, dozens of prospect meetings, you're doing something systematically, whether you know it or not. And there is your sales development process. And again, once you sit down for those 15 minutes, half an hour, going, yeah, okay, so what? I talked to him about this and I talked to him about that. You have now crafted something that you can go, hey, I could give this to someone and say, hey, prospects are going to come in. I'm going to give them to you. You go have these meetings. This is how you have the meeting. This is your goal of that meeting. So again, what you're solving for, you may love that. You may be the videographer that goes, man, I'm tired of going to these things. So you might bring in another videographer, right? And a great example of that is like you think lawyers and accountants, like the ones that have the CPA, the ones that have the law degree, the doctors that, have the degrees and so on and so forth. You go, well, hey, why is there big practices? Aren't they founder capped because they're the lawyer? No, I mean, they've got, physician assistants, they've got nurses, they've got, paralegals, right? The lawyer holds the credentials, so to speak, but he or she is elevating and delegating to the people, right? And, they're leveraging paralegals, they're using office assistants, right? So therefore, I mean, one of my largest customers in Corsica was in medical, and they had 40 offices all over the place, and the namesake was after the original doctor that started it and whatever. And he certainly still practiced, but he did build a business, and brought in more doctors and before he knew it, in a few years' time, he's got practices up and down the East Coast. So even in these businesses where you go, like the videographer, well, I'm the only one that can do this. No, like you've designed a style of there's a million videographers. You've designed a style of what your product is, like how your videos come out. You can document that and hire other videographers and go, hey, this is how we shoot, right? This is what we're putting together. It's how I built my business. The business did not grow by me installing every server, solving every help desk ticket, right? But I did say, this is how we build servers here. This is how we solve help desk tickets here at Corsica, and brought people in. And I needed people that could follow directions and wanted to learn and grow. So in your business, you got to think about those things, because again, it's the work you're doing is encapsulated with a business system, and you need to take time and pull that out. And don't make it complicated, man. Pull out. I use Remarkable today. Like, heads up how I work on these types of things, man. Like whether it's pen and paper or Remarkable, like you don't need to start with technology, man. It's like start with keep it simple and let it come out, let it flow.
Do you see many people that don't even really know what they want to do or build? Like they got fed up with their boss or the company that they're working for, and they were passionate about working on servers, so they just go start working on servers without any sort of intentionality around what they are trying to build. They just love building servers and configuring servers for people. And so they find themselves, they've really left corporate America and then just created a job for themselves as opposed to actually building a business. Because there's a difference. A solopreneur who just wants to freelance and go do stuff on their own, that is fantastic if that's what you want to do. But if you want to actually build a business, you have to handle things much differently, which seems to be kind of the theme that we're going in here in terms of let's clearly define what we want to do. And a lot of people don't even know. They fumble their way through it and then end up just unintentionally building this massive business and then don't know what to do with it. But I think clearly defining where do you want to go? Because if you don't have a target, you're just going to be wandering aimlessly through business and life. So clearly defining that target. And if your intent is to build a business with 10 to 20 people and you focus on network infrastructure or, whatever thing you are passionate about, then start understanding, well, I have to map this process out and say, okay, get a piece of paper and chunk things up like you were talking about. All right, well, here's how I get new clients. This is what that process looks like. Once they come in the door, then I do this work with them. And then we close the project, invoice, and done. And you don't have to overcomplicate it. It's just a matter of saying, okay, I want to build a business. In order to build a business, I have to do these things. And it can be daunting for somebody who's never built a business and they see all these tools like Trello and all these project management systems and applications. And when you're that small, don't overcomplicate it. Keep it as simple as you possibly can so that you can then grow. I promise you will figure out when you have to do those things, but don't clutter your mind with these big, what if? Well, that's not going to scale. You're not even there yet. You've got one or two people. Don't worry about what happens, what's going to break whenever you get 200 employees. You are so far away from that. It shouldn't even be part of your schema at this point in time. Sorry, I went down a little bit of a rant because I get excited about this topic. But I do want to shift a little bit into something that's near and dear to my heart, and I see this with other entrepreneurs. And the message that I want to share is you are not alone. You don't have to do this on your own. And I know as you build a business, there's this element of ego, of beating your chest, of I am entrepreneur, hear me roar, and almost like shame and embarrassment to ask for help. I'm here to tell you, ask for the help. Do you run into that?
Yes. In the beginning of this year, the last 5 years of Lions Guide had been a lot of mentorship and advisory generally. And what I found was this accountability thing and inability to ask for help or not being vulnerable enough for ask for, or, not being in a circle that you have quality help to even gain, right? Some people get started and they come from, maybe no one in their family. It's not they're not running their dad's company. They're, their family has always been employees of someone and they're trying to be entrepreneurial. So you really maybe even don't even have the original network around you of a family of entrepreneurs or friends. And so, yes. And so I will say, you were saying you're not alone and you're 100%. And I acknowledge you feel very alone because you are contending with something that most people are not willing to. They want the comfort of that paycheck. They don't want to risk it. There's the whole man in arena speech. Like they're not willing to be the man in the arena, and start their own business. And that's why Lions got a lot as well around courage, having the courage, hey, you're really great at this and you start your own business. It could turn out great. The do or don't of that comes down to, do you have the courage to do it? Right. And because you could answer, because I teach people courage is a virtue, and it's about, overcoming your fears in doing the right thing, right? You could go bungee jump out of a plane, all that stuff. That's brave and bold. It's not necessarily virtuous, right? But if you're contending with doing the right thing, and you're afraid to do the right thing, whether it's for yourself or someone else, the act of actually doing it despite your fears is courage, right? And so a lot of people do not have the courage to start their own business or take this leap. So yes, we actually do feel very alone. And what I've done at Lions Guide this year is built cohorts of full-time business owners that we come in. So because I realized that this two things, this loneliness factor, this lack of accountability to their businesses is just not happening. They're in the rat race and so on. And a lot of things out there that people bring people in, it's very curriculum based. And I have online classes, like I said earlier, that I've recorded lessons that I found myself teaching often. But you kind of buy into these things and you're going into like, hey, we're going to work on this week and we're going to work on that next week. When I realize that's all good. It's good development work or whatever. But once you're a full-time business owner, there are things that are important to you that you need to be working on this week, right? Like this week, I don't want to spend 90 minutes working on my power of persuasion. I need to be working on the fact that we're two people behind and we're falling behind, or we got no business coming in, or two accounts just canceled and something's wrong. I need to work on that shit. Like I don't need to spend 90 minutes working on my power of persuasion. I'm actually losing accounts right now. So that said, I built these cohorts where we come in, and you were talking about vision, where a part of the orientation is like, what is your vision 10 years from now? And it's simple exercise, and I'll just disclose it, right? Even if you sit down and you write a little table on your napkin or piece of paper or whatever, you pull it out from me telling you to before. In the first column, you write, who are the 5 to 10 people most important to me in my life, including myself. In the second column, you write 2024, and you write, what is your age right now for each of those 5 to 10 people. And in the third column, you write 2034, and you write the age of those people 10 years from now. And just that simple exercise is going to move you into the necessity of now as relates to what your future is going to be. Because regardless if you stand still or not, this treadmill is still running. In 10 years from now, I'm going to be 54. My oldest is going to be 25. My middle is going to be 22, right? I've got a 15-year-old today, and 10 years from now, I'm going to have a 25-year-old, right? I've got a 12-year-old today, and 10 years from now, I'm going to have a 22-year-old. And I run a full-time business. How do I want my life to look like 10 years from now? That little, punch in the face will make you start to go, shit, what am I working on? Like what am I working towards? So we go through that exercise where we take that kind of 10-year pop shot and go, hey, 10 years from now, this is going to be your reality. Now, again, we're not drawing what the top of the mountain looks like. We're just saying, there's the top of the mountain, right? You're going to be 54 in 10 years, talking about my own age. But, okay, let's dial that back. Let's go 3 years. How would you like things to look 1 year from now? Like by the end of this year, how do you want your business to look? And then we dial that even down and say, okay, great. With you've piled up a list of things that you would like to see in your business a year from now. And I call it the pile. Now we're going to take that pile and we're going to split that up and go, that said, you can't do all of that right now. So what are the most important things you should be doing this quarter, right? So this cohort that I have, with full-time business owners, every week then, after that initial kind of orienting exercise, we come in and they define, we're at the end of the quarter now, they define their strategic objectives based on all that. What is next quarter? Q3, what are the top 3 strategic objectives that I'm going to get accomplished, right? And we come in and we throw those on the board. So the whole group, we've got all of their, not what I think they should be doing, but what they think they should be doing for their business, because their vision is their own. Their business is their own, right? I'm not here to tell them what their business should be, and I don't have no 7-step formula like this stuff that you see. Like I'm not trying to pigeonhole that. I've learned that's not actually what they need. They need to work on their business. And so this cohort is, they come in and go, hey, here's the top 3 things, guys, that I'm working on this quarter, and each week, the first part of the meeting, we come in, we check in, all that stuff. But in the cohorts, they come in and are you on track or off track with your objective for this quarter, period? And if they're not, we throw it on the board to talk about. And so we have these 90-minute sessions where we are helping them be accountable to the strategic objectives they set. We challenge them, like, and it is holistic. It's not just about business. Sometimes it's like, hey man, I'm not keeping up with my health, right? Or I'm not keeping up with my wife, let alone the business. Like, thing that we haven't talked about yet, which I'll sidebar real quick. Like, it's not just your business. Like, you are the CEO of your whole life. Like, just like you run your business and you're in charge of the sales department, the service department, the finance department, the marketing department, and you need all of those things to be healthy and well. That's true to your business, but your business is one department in your life. So you need to make sure your business is good. You need to make sure your health is good. You need to make sure your relationships are good, right? And so so bad news for you guys are struggling only in your business now. It's actually bigger than that. And if you want your business to be successful, you need to make sure these other things are attended to too. Just like in your business, right? Like, if you really dialed in the sales team, but your service team sucks, and your finance back office sucks, that's all good, because your boat is floating and it's bringing in, new business, but it's falling right out the back door because you're not working on the service team and the rest of your business, right? So similarly in your life as the CEO of the business of life, let's say, you can have your business flawless, but if your wife's walking out on you, what good is that? If you're an absentee dad, what good is that in the department of your relationships? And if you're way overweight and you're not tending to staying healthy and fit to contend with the demands of your business, what good is that, right? So I say all that because a part of what we do in these cohorts, it's not that just the business. And a lot of guys will come in and they'll have one. And they're all strategic objectives because, again, we're working on the vision. But we go, hey, some of them will go, hey, man, I need to really get a gym routine in this quarter, right? And it's just one of their objectives is, like, I'm going to dial it in and integrate working out again into my schedule. I've ignored it. The business has taken over that part of my life. And other ones might be, hey, I really recognize that I don't have a good sales development process. So this quarter, I'm going to get that done. And each week, they're accountable to what they said they needed to get done this quarter. And that's a part of the meeting. And then the rest of the time in the meeting, we throw issues on the board where we just talk about, hey, my key person is struggling or whatever. I've got more business than I know what to do with, or this pop-up came and I'm not sure how to deal with it. And then as a group, we have all these issues on the board. And, I think one thing that holds true that your listeners might need to know that are business owners, a lot of times you'll think your problems are only your own. Like, we all have those same problems. Whatever it is this week that's beating you up, like, we've all been there, done that. Like you said, in my case, from 0 to 200 people, I've been through a lot of punches in the face week to week as far as like the contending with business. So a part of our cohort is we throw our current issues on the board, and then before we dive into an hour worth of discussing those issues that are, again, currently plaguing our group, we vote them up, so we'll have like 6 or 7 issues that everyone threw on the board that they're currently contending with. And we'll just do a quick round the horn and go, hey, Sean, based on what's on the board, what are the top 3 that you would like us to dig into today? And we do a little quick vote, and then we take the top 3 issues and we start with the number 1 and we try to solve that issue for that person. Because really, a lot of times people will throw issues on the board and the other people go, hey, Matt brought up X. I would really like to talk about that too. I know Matt threw it on the table, but so long story short is, we try to set up this cohort of accountability for them to work on their businesses, be strategically, aligned with where they're trying to go down to the quarter, and timely wise. Like this week, we just did a rock report where we everyone spends our time together presenting, what was the outcome impact and what did they learn from their objectives for Q2, right? And we just throw it all out there. And then next week, because we're wrapping up this quarter, we will set all of our strategic objectives for the next quarter, and we'll rinse and repeat. And man, it's been so fulfilling to watch these guys. And now we have a men's group and women's group. So men, have issues. Like there's certain issues that men are up against as full-time business owners. And then women, and so I wanted to make sure that, the relatability factor. So everyone in the group is a full-time business owner. It's not side hustle stuff. It's not one day I would like to have my business or get started. No, the people in the groups are full-time business owners. So we're all on the same page. And then, and what we found in the beta testing of putting this together, that it ended up being a lot of men, and they were more forthcoming just because it was a group of men. And we then started a women's group, because same thing, like there's contentions that women are up against as leaders, as business owners, that men couldn't relate to. And it's kind of like similarly why I did only full-time business owners instead of including like organizational leaders that are salaried. Well, because being an organizational leader, like if you don't like how things are going, like in your job, let's say, you got to easy out. Just put your resume out there and find another job. That's what most of them do, right? But as a business owner, if things aren't going your way, you've got a problem. There is no throwing your resume out and just switching jobs, right? Like you have to solve for it. Like that's it. So the group is only full-time business owners, and similarly they're men full-time business owners, and with the ladies, same thing. Like they have different related things that only a woman full-time business owner can relate to. And I want to give them that space, and I hate to be woo-woo safe space talk, but I want them to have that comfort to truly, if something's they're challenged with is applicable only to them as a woman, I want them to be able to throw it on the table without reluctance, period, just because there's men in a room, right? And same thing with men. Like we had brought that up. So now the guys will bring stuff up about their wives, like, hey, I'm struggling with this, in my relationship, and it's causing a problem because it's distracting me in my business, right? And that's where I was talking like the holistic thing. It all applies and affects us. And so, and it's been awesome. I mean, we've been doing that, for the last 6 months, and just seeing these guys just move the needle, on the things most important to them, not just running them through my curriculum and, learning how to be a better influencer or craft your vision, like all this. And I don't want to call it crap. Those things are good exercises to do. What I'm solving for is that loneliness piece and the lack of accountability piece. Like some of us don't know how to lead ourselves. They don't know where to start. So like throw your crap on the board and let some other people in the same boat as you give you some feedback, so.
It can feel extremely lonely whenever you go out and start building this thing. And, with everything that you just shared, my thought just continued to revolve around how important, a few things, how important it is for us to surround ourselves with excellence and people that are going to lift us up, and not in a way of just hoorah, be a cheerleader, but also have that accountability, because sometimes people don't really like accountability. It's not fun for us to encounter, but it is something that we need. And another thing that does come to mind for me is, as much as we would love to say, well, I'm going to compartmentalize, and this is business, and this is family, and this is fitness, the reality is it's more of a mesh. It all intertwines and pulls on us. So if we don't have that supportive spouse or partner in our life, if we don't have supportive friends in our life, it doesn't matter how much of a powerhouse you are in business, they are going to be a drag on you. And you have to be cognizant and focus on, you have to be intentional about auditing your circle and assessing, is this person a drag, or are they removing friction and helping me achieve my goals and mission faster? That is not an easy thing to do, especially if it's someone that means a lot to you. And I'm not saying that you have to cut them out of your life completely, but it is important that you create some distance between those people that are a drag so that you make room for people that are going to move you forward and inspire and motivate and lift you up so that you can accomplish your goals and put your dent in the universe. So let me ask you this, Dale. What is one of the biggest lessons that you have learned in entrepreneurship? If you had to just kind of sum it up in a quick statement, what is one of the most powerful and important things to keep in mind if you are embarking on this wild journey that is entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. I guess the one thing I've not talked about here that I kind of answer that one with to keep it short, is, the whole, clarity leads to confidence. So we talked a lot about self-confidence. Like, I don't feel confident, and so that'll freeze us. We don't move. And one of the things I kind of answer this question to people as far as how do I be successful and where does clarity fit in, and I don't feel confident and whatever, is, seek clarity, right? We fear the unknown naturally. So a lot of times we won't move, or take those actions that we need to take because we don't know, right? You talked about accounting. I don't know anything about accounting. I don't want to start a business. Well, you can learn about accounting, and you don't even need to be an accountant. You just need to know what it means and how it works, right? So I say, like, look, if you want more confidence, seek clarity, right? Just go, just what I call shine a light on it. Go, hey, what am I afraid of? So start shining a light on what I'm afraid of. Why aren't I moving? What's holding me back? And so seek clarity. The more clarity you get, the more confidence you will have, right? The videographer stuff. If you said, man, I really would like to do a video, I don't know where to start. Well, you would go online and find an online course. You would go to local community college. You would go to groups. All of that is shining a light on this desire of yours to be a videographer, right? And as you do that, you will get more confidence. And the more confidence you get, the more courageous action you're going to take, right? So we go back to what I said about courage. Courage is doing the right thing despite your fears. So the more more clarity you get, the more confidence you're going to get. And the more confidence you get, the more likely you're going to take courageous action. And now you're going to start moving forward. And even to your point about the naysayers and the negative people and the crabs in the buckets and all that stuff hanging you back, like, the more you shine a light on, like, hey, man, hanging out with Billy every Friday night till 2 a.m., is holding me back. And you start shining a light on, well, how is it holding me back? That will give you confidence to tell Billy, hey, man, I can't do it this Friday, right? And more you shine a light on what you're trying to build and how that's keeping you from getting there, you're going to have more confidence to say no, right? Like, or whatever. You understand, like that. So I say, like, shine a light on the things that you think are holding you back. What are you afraid of, right? Start solving for that problem, and you will find you will start taking the actions to move you where you want to go.
Dale, thank you so much for coming on, sharing all of the incredible things that you're doing in terms of lifting other entrepreneurs up and helping them become a better version of themselves so that then they can lift everyone else up around them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have for the show today. We will have all of Dale's contact information down in the show notes below. Please do not hesitate to reach out to him if you are building a business, seeking guidance, or just want to surround yourself with excellence. Give him a call. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have for the show today. Thank you so much, and y'all have a good one.